Right, good Saturday to everybody. Thanks for clicking on to the Tropical Outlook. It looks as if we are going to gradually see things quietening down, and that is, of course, very good news indeed, especially for those that have been affected by most recent Hurricane Milton. We do have a subsidence increasing over the Atlantic Basin in the not so distant future, and I think that should start to ease things down in terms of activity. It has been quite busy in recent times, but and this season has now went above average in terms of named storms, named hurricane development, and also ACE, I believe, has even went above average as well after what has been a rather sluggish season so far. Got off to the races with Beryl back at the end of June, beginning of July. Then things kind of really quietened down. We had some odd things going on within the atmosphere, the oceans, etc., etc. But things really did start to catch up big time. End of September and through the first half of October has obviously been very, very busy indeed. So, Global Weather and Climate Report edition 112 is going to be out tomorrow. So we're going to have the live stream at 7:30 p.m. UK time. So I hope you can join me for that. We're going to look at a look back at the impacts of both Milton, Hurricane Kirk that impacted Europe as well, and all other aspects with regards to extremes that have taken place around the world over the last 7 days or so. So anyway, this is the tracks up until now with regards to the Atlantic hurricane season. So you can see quite an active, especially through the Gulf of Mexico. Also, we've had several recurving systems as well that have taken a turn over the central or western portion of the Atlantic and made a beeline towards the UK and Ireland here. So it's a pretty common thing to see tropical storms or hurricanes make an impact on Western Europe here. And this was the track of Hurricane Kirk. Just missed the northwest corner of Iberia, but we did see heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and then it moved into the upper Atlantic coast of France, and they brought heavy rain and wind here also. So, the numbers up until now, 13 depressions, 13 total storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes, and I believe, according to Wikipedia anyway, we've had $79.864 billion worth of damage. This will be right up there with some of the worst damage and costs in recorded history for particularly the United States, with Francine Beryl trying to get my name's who have we seen? Let me just see here. Does it show you easily? So obviously we had Alberto, we had the Beryl, Tropical Storm Chris kind of came and went without really kind of doing anything. Debbie, Ernesto, then Francine, Gordon, Helene, Isaac, Joyce, Kirk, Leslie, Milton. And you notice here this congregation of storms here, generally from about mid-September through the first week or so of October. So it has been a busy wee spell. This is a pretty crazy visible satellite imagery here showing 3 simultaneous hurricanes active on October 6th. I believe that was a record for the month of October in terms of having 3 hurricanes simultaneously in the Atlantic Basin. So anyway, how are we looking? In terms of the Madden-Julian oscillation, we do have an increasingly strong phase 2-3 of the MJO, which means that we've got a large-scale rising motion within the Indian Ocean, but then subsidence over the majority of the Pacific into the United States, as you can see here, into South America also. Have this little area of upward motion just to the west of Central America that kind of bears watching. This is off the CFSV2 for the next 7 days, by the way. We've also got this upward motion over the North Atlantic also. But then as we play through, you can see here that that pulse of rising motion kind of moves into the eastern Indian Ocean. It heads towards the maritime continent, while we start to see that kind of hammer of subsidence increasing in intensity over the Americas and over the Western Atlantic basin here. And then you can see here it continues to progress as we move into week 3, which means that the MJO is actually moving out of the phase 4 and 5 and into phases 6 and 7. That may increase the potential of a negative Arctic oscillation, negative North Atlantic oscillation coming back, but that is obviously another story for another day. Looking at the latest of NHC at the time of recording, we still have Tropical Storm Leslie, 50 mile per hour system, central pressure at 1,000 millibars, moving in a northeasterly direction of 17 miles per hour. Area of interest over the western side of the Cape Verde island chain. We've got a 50% chance over the next 48 hours of development. And when we skip out to the 7-day outlook of NHC, there is no threat, thankfully, seen by the National Hurricane Center over the Western Open Atlantic, the Caribbean, or the Gulf of Mexico. Leslie, we've got obviously, and that 50% chance exists for the next 7 days in terms of development here. But I do think the MJO becoming less favourable means that we are going to start to see the Atlantic basin quieten down. A couple of interesting things here I want to show you. I actually showed you this in yesterday's European Outlook. This is the little trail of cold water wake due to the passage of tropical cyclone Kirk. Was a major hurricane, obviously, but you can see here the upwelled colder waters here due to the passage of Kirk. This is the 7-day change over the open Atlantic basin. You can see here that we have actually cooled things down over the western subtropical Atlantic and into the Gulf of Mexico as well. If we blow this up, you can see it just a little bit clearer here. So quite interesting how we've taken a little bit of heat out of the Gulf of Mexico and to the east of Florida. There's that very notable upwelling caused by Kirk seen also here. Looking at a couple of other things here with regards to the SSTs, and if we look at here, let's skip back slightly. I want to show you this here because this is the Gulf of Mexico SST anomalies here, and you can see that we were generally in the kind of +1 Celsius above average during the month of August. Very little in the way of activity here, so we allowed that buildup of warmth within this body of water here. And then obviously these tropical systems that developed really taken full use of that high octane fuel underneath the surface of the Gulf of Mexico. We've seen a little bit of a drop in the SSTs within the Gulf of Mexico, then a rise, a recovery. That's probably due to the passage of, could I be right in saying Francine? I hope I'm right in saying that, but that would definitely be the result of a tropical system. Then we've seen the waters recover, and then we've seen a decrease in temperature in the last 5 or 6 days here, and that is courtesy of Hurricane Milton. So that is the effect that the tropical systems can have on SSTs. Looking at the rest of the main development region of the Atlantic. So I don't think there's an awful lot of change here. This is the Atlantic MDR, and you notice here that there's not really any change in the SSTs in the main development region. Looking elsewhere here, you can see the Caribbean. Again, not a great deal of change. In fact, we've seen a warming trend in recent days within the Caribbean Sea. Let me see here, have I missed out anything here? The mid-Atlantic, mid-latitude Atlantic here, you can see a slight decrease in temperature. That is probably actually helped by some of the activity that we've seen. We've had some recurving systems in recent days, which is probably taking just a little bit of an edge off that anomalous warmth that we've seen throughout the majority of the season. So this is how the global tropics looks. Not much to speak about really. We've got an invest area here in the Arabian Sea. We've got another invest area here over the far west Pacific to the east of the Philippines. We've got Leslie, and we've got that invest area near the Cape Verde Islands. So moving forward here, with that sinking motion increasing over the Atlantic basin, you would expect to see higher pressure, drier air becoming more prevalent over the western and central tropical and subtropical Atlantic. And you can see here in the next 7 days, we've got above average pressure over the main development region here. We've got the lower heights, eastern Canada extending across the North Atlantic and towards the British Isles here. So we're now starting to see a change in the pattern. We're losing the Greenland block, and we're starting to see a much more typical pattern for the mid to late or early to mid portions of October. Into week 2 here, you can see again, we've got that high to the south, low to the north kind of situation here. Lots of subsidence here, probably aided by that inactive phase of the MJO in this part of the world. And then into week 4. Now this is interesting here, right? Because remember that the MJO is expected towards the end of October, possibly into the early portions of November. We may start to see the MJO rotate back into the Atlantic basin here. So rising motion, upward motion, moving back into the Western Atlantic and Central Atlantic basin here. And then even in the week 5, you can see here that we start to see heights coming down here over the far western, subtropical and even tropical Atlantic. My point being is that, remember, we cannot rule out tropical cyclone activity even into the month of November. Remember, the season doesn't end until the end of November. And simply what I'm getting at here is that I would not necessarily rule out that the season is done completely. It would not surprise me. Remember, we've got a tremendous amount of residual warmth, well above average sea surface temperatures within the tropical, subtropical, Caribbean, and the Gulf of Mexico of the Atlantic here. And if we get a last gasp rotation back into the Atlantic of the MJO, it would not surprise me if we get a few developments even into the latter half of October or through the month of November. Obviously, changes are taking place. We're seeing colder air now starting to drift further and further south. We're seeing changes within the distribution of winds. The ridges and troughs, we're starting to increase the wavelengths, etc., etc. We're increasing the hostility within the subtropics and even the tropics as we start to see cold building further north here. But it would not surprise me if we start to see favourable conditions coming back for a last gasp attempt at the tropical activity. So, in terms of probabilities, this is how the ECMWF is looking for the period between Monday the 14th and Monday the 21st of October. We've got this sneaky little area here seen by the ECM. We've got one piece well out over the open Atlantic here to the west of Iberia. We've also got an area just to the east of the islands here of the Caribbean that may see an increased chance of some sneaky development here. For example, you've got frontal systems that are moving out into the tropical oceans now. They can cause spin up and things like that, but there's nothing imminent, and I think the overall environment isn't overly conducive for the upcoming 7-day period. But look at this here by the time we reach week 2. So this is 21st through the 28th. You can see here that we are increasing the probability seen by the ECM through the Caribbean into the Southern Gulf, extending into the Western Atlantic basin here. So that's quite interesting to see. Then we start to see, again, there is a low probability over the Western Atlantic, but again, we're decreasing it compared to what we see in the week 2. So again, the tropics, I don't believe, are done just yet, but I think we're going to start to gradually see this season kind of easing in intensity. It's been a busy past week to 10 days. For sure, we've seen back-to-back major hurricanes hit Florida. Obviously, people do not want to see, especially in this part of the world, people do not want to see anything looming for the rest of this year. And let's hope that is the case. But anyway, that is an overview of the tropics. Thanks for watching. I do greatly appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing as well. If you're recently subscribed to the channel, a very warm welcome to you. If you're new, I hope you're enjoying the content, looking at the big picture of things, looking at the day-to-day stuff, but also I kind of specialize in medium to long range forecasting. So obviously the winter is fast approaching, so we're looking at the winter ideas quite a bit, and the tropical outlooks that are produced every Saturday will eventually start to ease off as we progress through the remainder of October into November. We'll probably stop doing the tropical outlooks and we'll do other things on a Saturday. Maybe a couple of Saturdays where I actually take the time off, because I know that things are going to get busier and busier as we move towards the winter season here. But like and subscribe, leave a comment. It's always good to see your comments, and I hope you can join me tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. UK time, for the live stream looking at all things global. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye for now.